Does Allah have all power over everything? Or are there some things that Allah does not have power over?
If he has all power inside his nature, which he tells us about in the Quran.
So, what is an example of something that Allah does not have power over?
He doesn't have the power to cease existing.
All right, so those are logical contradictions, things that are not it, right? You can't contradict himself. That's what you're saying. All right. So you can't contradict his nature. Those are logical contradictions. We understand that. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have power. That means it's okay. So that's actually a testament to his power and his consistency within his nature. Now, can you explain to me, because it sounds like what you're saying is having a son goes against his nature. Is that what you're saying?
Having a son that does not inherit his nature goes against his nature.
Where does the Quran say that?
I'll tell you, okay? So the Quran says Allah is perfect, all of these attributes, right? And those 99 attributes that the Quran gives Allah, does it then have that? No. Okay? So, we both know when someone's begotten something, they inherit his nature. Okay? This is in your belief. We see this in human.
Brother, can you just show me where the Quran says that it goes against Allah's nature? Now, it doesn't have to say it in these exact words, but just show me where this idea is, where it is a logical contradiction. It's impossible for Allah to have a son that does not share his nature. That goes against his nature. Can you show me that in the Quran?
It's a conclusion I come to using logic.
Say that again?
The conclusion I have come to using logic.
So it's not in the Quran and the Sunnah or anything, huh? Or the Tafsir or nothing?
I can probably find it in the Tafsir.
You just made it up. You should read Ibn Kathir's Tafsir on this. Got to be careful with how we make up stuff about the texts, man. Because then you'll be going into bid'ah, innovation, which leads to misguidance, which then leads to hellfire. That's what Muhammad says. I see the rest of you guys. I'll be letting you guys up in a little bit. Khalid and Hamza, I'll let you guys up in just a few minutes. Life, do you mind streaming this if you're not busy?
Okay.
All right, so where does the Quran say what you said?
No, it's in Tafsir.
Okay. What Tafsir says what you said? So it's not in the Quran, it's not in the Hadith. Now we got to go to the Tafsir.
Okay. So, if you want to say the Tafsir, yeah, because we use Tafsir. What's the problem?
So what Tafsir says what you said? That Allah can have a son that... Huh?
Tafsir al-Tabari.
All right, so can you read it where he says that Allah can have a son that's his nature?
It doesn't say Allah can have a son that's in his nature. It says Allah can't have a son that isn't in his nature.
So where does I need you to read it out for me now?
Okay, this is what to say progress is. It's in Arabic. Wait, let me just translate it real quick.
You're putting Google Translate or something.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, it feels good out here.
Okay. So here's what it says. Scholars interpret this verse as a direct refutation of polytheistic beliefs and any anthropomorphic conceptions of God. In the context of pre-Islamic Arabia, many people believe in gods who had offspring and partners. This verse asserts that such gen-like attributes do not or would not apply to God's offspring.
So where does he say what you said? He said.
Sorry, what?
Where does it say that what you said? He said that Allah can't have a son that doesn't have his nature.
It says that this verse asserts that gen-like attributes would not apply to God's offspring.
Go on, because you said that Tabari says that Allah cannot have a son that did not inherit his nature. Where does he say that?
Yeah, exactly. He says the verse asserts that gen-like attributes, a gen nature, does not apply to an offspring of God.
No, he says jinn-like attributes, the things that jinns do, does not apply to him.
You know what an attribute
He
is?
does not say. You said that he says that he cannot have a son that does not have his nature, and yet we went to Tabari and he doesn't say that.
Attributes make up nature.
Oh, come on, man. Look, bro, I think that an easier thing to do here would be to just concede and say, you know what, yeah, based on this, just keeping it simple and sticking with what the Quran says, the book that I love, the book that I believe in, the book that I uphold, the book that I believe is uncorrupted, simple, eloquent, and preserved. It's pretty clear. Allah cannot have a son because he doesn't have a spouse, he doesn't have a partner, there's no one equal to him.
Have a son that is not Allah cannot have a son, but any attributes or gen nature.
That's what it says. How can he have a son when he doesn't have a mate? So in order to have a son, what would he need? A mate. It's really that simple, bro. It's not hard.
You cannot have a son that's a jinn.
But he can have a son that's God, right?
The Quran doesn't say he can.
No, use your logic. He can have a son that's God, right?
Maybe.
Huh?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
You said maybe? No, it is either he can or he can't. Can he have a son that's God?
No, he told me he doesn't.
I know he says he doesn't. I'm not asking if he does or doesn't. I'm asking, can he? Can he have a son that's God?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
He could have. Okay.
He could. So he could have a son that is God.
I don't know, maybe.
You just switched it, man. I'm confused. Can he do it or not? Because you said that he can't. He can only have a son that inherits his nature. He cannot have a son that doesn't inherit his nature, like a jinn or an angel. So can he have a son that is God?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't believe it befits His Majesty, but maybe.
You believing whether it befits His Majesty or not is non-consequential to the question, my brother. Remember, you're using your logic. You're using your logic. So you said that it's not possible. It goes against His nature for Him to have a son that does not inherit His nature. But He can have a son. It does not negate Him. It doesn't go against His nature for Him to have a son that does inherit His nature. That's something He can do. Huh?
What difference does it make to you?
Oh, well, it makes a huge difference. You'll see once you answer the question. Can Allah have a son that is God? Based on your logic.
I'm gonna say no. I can give a reason.
All right, no worries. So notice how you saying no literally destroys the entire, maybe 25 minutes that we've been talking, because you tried to build a case that, well, no, this is talking about that Allah can't have a son that is not inherit to His nature, that it doesn't inherit His nature. That's a jinn baby or an angel baby. He can have a son that inherits his own nature, but he can't have a son that doesn't inherit his nature. He would need a jinn spouse or an angel spouse to do this, which goes against his nature to do. But he can have a son that inherits his own nature. He's just above doing that. Okay. That was your entire backing of your argument.
No, I'll say.
So do you wait? Let me land this. That was your entire backing, your entire foundation to the argument that I'm saying that Allah can't have a son without a spouse. You're saying no, He can't have a specific son without a specific type of spouse. A jinn baby with a jinn spouse, an angel baby, an angel spouse. But you try to hold on to another way that He can't have a son. But now you just erased that. You just said that Allah also cannot have a son that inherits His own nature.
Okay.
So even still, your God is not all powerful.
Okay, wait. If Allah were to have a son, it will inherit His nature. Now, and you know my other point. If Allah were to have a son that wouldn't inherit His nature, like a jinn, He will need a jinn spouse. Okay. Now, so the issue is. Allah isn't all powerful because he cannot have a son regularly, then baby, no. Okay, so for Allah to have a son, His nature, and part of His nature is that He's eternal, right? But it's eternally beget a son. The son would have to eternally, be eternally begotten to Him, right?
Exactly. For Him to have a son that inherits His nature, it would have to be an eternal begetting, an eternal procession.
Yeah,
you're right.
It's eternally caused, right?
Yeah, an eternal cause, an eternal causation.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I know that's your belief in Father and Son. So then, you'd have to refer to the beginning of time. In the beginning of time, for God to cause Him to happen, if He's caused, then He couldn't have existed before the Father caused the Son.
If there's an eternal causation, then there is no point in time where it began, right?
Yeah, but I guess doesn't that create a bit of a contradiction between them?
Oh, absolutely not. Like, for example, and you probably heard this before because you sound like you've talked on these subjects. Imagine we got the sun, right? Imagine that the sun in the sky is eternal.
The sun and the radiation of the rough?
No, just the light. Just how the sun brings forth light. The sun, as long as the sun is the sun, it brings forth light, right?
Yeah.
All right. Now imagine the sun is eternal.
Okay.
Will there ever be a time where that light that comes from the sun ever came to be, ever began? if the Son itself is eternal?
I'd have to. Let me think about that.
Hey, think about it. Think about it. It's an interesting thought. If the Son was eternal, the light that the Son brings forth, the light that the Son emits, will it ever have begun to emit light? Will there ever have been a time where the Son was not emitting that light? The answer would be no.
Yeah.
As long as the Son is the Son, it produces light.
Yeah, because I get that the Sun causes the light, but the thing about that is that you can't create a distinction between they are eternally attached as well. Like, which wouldn't be the same thing. Because, how do I explain this?
All I want you to do, my brother, to keep it simple, is focus on the principle of eternal causation. That's all I want you to focus on. That's the only analogy that I'm drawing with this. Nothing else is in eternal causation. The Son, as long as it's the Son, emits light. Always. It ain't the Sun if it doesn't emit light. So if it doesn't emit light, it's a dead sun, it's a dead star, right? But so we're talking about a sun that is eternal. If the sun is eternal, then its light would also be eternal, right?
Yeah.
So that is an example of an eternal causation. The sun causes light. It brings forth light. If the sun is eternal, then it eternally brings forth light. Similar to the Father and the Son. If God were to bring forth a son from his own essence, this action, this operation would be an eternal causation. There won't be a point in time where this didn't happen or it began to happen. It's necessary.
Just give me a minute to think about this, man.
Sure. It's a deep thought, but it's good, you know? It's a deep thought, but it's pretty good. Now remember, I only drew that analogy to highlight the principle of eternal beginning, eternal causation. Nothing else. Exactly, little dear. Which is why my argument against the Allah of the Quran stands. The God of the Bible is able to have a son in and of himself with no help, not depending on anyone. He can eternally beget a son from his own essence. But Allah needs a spouse to have a son. He depends on someone outside of himself to do it. Telling you, man. Some good stuff right here, man.
Okay, yeah. So, I just want to make sure I understood it, right? So, if the Son representing the Father is eternal, and the light it gives off representing the Son is also eternal, the light is caused by the Son, but is also co-eternal with it, right?
Sorry, I was distracted. Give me 2 seconds. I'm distracted.
Yeah, that's all right.
Dude, life. When I said stream this, I said on my channel, dude. Well, I didn't say on my channel. It's just, my goodness, man. Lord have mercy. At least double stream it, goodness. Oh, no, all right, sorry. What did you ask?
Okay, so I want to make sure I understand it. So, the Son is representing the Father and is eternal, and the light it gives off representing the Son is also eternal.
Yeah.
Okay, and the light caused by the sun is also quaternion. Okay, I got it. I'd have to say then the light is dependent on the sun. So if light is caused by the sun, it implies a dependence of light on the sun. So if the sun is caused by the Father, it means that the son is dependent on the Father.
Yeah, there is what is called a codependency or interdependency within the nature of God. The three persons are interdependent upon each other. But to be a dependent being would mean that you have to depend on something outside of yourself in order to, be or exist, right? But the son is not depending on anything outside of his own nature to exist, because his nature is shared with the Father. He has the same nature as the Father. So it's not anything outside of his own being that he's depending on. But with Allah, he'll be depending on a spouse that's outside of himself.
Okay. So is the Father dependent as well?
There's an interdependency. So in order to be a father, like for example, do you have kids, or you sound like young actually? Do you have any kids?
No.
All right, are you the oldest? You're the oldest in your family?
I'm a younger sibling.
Your youngest, okay. How old is your oldest sibling?
He's 21.
21, okay. All right. How long has your father been a father?
Wow, it's 21 years.
21 years. How old is your dad though?
He is 56.
56. So out of his 56 years of living, only 21 of those years has he been a father. And this identification of being a father is dependent on him having children, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to the Heavenly Father, he has always been the Father. There's never been a time where he hasn't been the Father. He's always been the Father. He doesn't change. So this would mean that the Father has always had his Son. So the Father is dependent on the Son in order to have the identification of the Father.
Okay, I'm not talking about his identity. I'm talking about his personhood.
That's who he is. That's who he is. He is the Heavenly Father, which is based on his relationship with the Son. Relationship with the Son.
But I was about to say, isn't his fatherhood distinct from his personhood?
That's who he is as a person.
Yeah, I know, but he can exist as the same person without being the father.
No, he can't. That's who he is by necessity. Is the Father. He's always been the Father. Being the Father is his necessary.
Did he choose to cause the Son?
It's necessity. Does God choose to be all knowing?
Okay, I get it. Yeah, that's okay. Okay. So then I'll have to say dependence. Okay, I get that. Like the interdependency. That's
Interdependency.
Then I'd have to say one second.
Okay. Somebody block life. Dude knows that I stream on Mondays and is going to stream on his channel. How does that work? Somebody block life. Mods on Life's channel on GL 2.0, go ahead and mute life in the comment section. If you are on God Logic 2.0 and you're a mod on Life's channel, mute him and block him, please. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and get started on my copyright strike. Let me go ahead and reach security. Bypass the firewall. There is a channel that's stealing my content. He knows that I go live on Mondays. And when decided to streamed on his own channel. He is a jahil. Please report this channel. Yeshu Akbar. Hopefully we'll get that squared away. Hopefully we get that squared away.
Okay. I just have one more thing that I think makes this like sort of inconsistent. So the analogy. So in like our human understanding of causality, a cause typically precedes like the effect, right, in time. So the concept of something being caused inherently is just sort of a sequence, I guess, right? Doesn't, which I guess also conflicts with the idea of both being the with the idea of both the cause and effect being eternal.
How?
Like,
How does that relate to the analogy that we brought?
what I'm trying to say is, like, no, because if we have a cause, right, the sun wouldn't, like, the sun precede the light, like.
Not if the sun is eternal and by necessity brings forth light. We already got past this, man.
I don't know, man. I'll think about it.
Yeah, think about it and then come back to me, man. I enjoyed this talk with you.
Right.
Take care of yourself.
I'll come back up later. See.
Okay, peace.